His lawyer dropped the pen. I'm serious, it actually rolled right off the mahogany desk and hit the floor with a little clack, but nobody moved to pick it up. Mr. Sterling, the toughest, most expensive divorce attorney in Atlanta, looked at the document in front of him like it was a bomb about to go off. His face went completely ashy. My husband, Marcus, shifted in his chair, laughing nervously. He adjusted his expensive suit jacket, the one I picked out for him, and flashed that $1,000,000 smile that used to melt my heart. "What's the holdup, Sterling? It's just a standard deed transfer. Tell her to sign it so we can wrap this up. I have a dinner reservation at 8. I just sat there, calmly fixing my braids, watching Marcus's arrogance slowly turn into confusion. He really thought he was the king of the castle. He thought he could toss me and our son out on the street with nothing but the clothes on our backs. But looking at his lawyer's face turn gray, that was priceless. Marcus had forgotten one little thing about me. Before I was just Malik's mom or Marcus's wife, I was a certified structural engineer. I knew how to spot a crack in a foundation from a mile away. And Marcus, his whole life was built on a fault line. But to understand how I wiped that smirk off his face, we have to go back 6 weeks, back to the day I thought my life was over. This is where the story truly begins. Before we dive in, what time is it where you are? Which country are you watching from? Leave a comment and let me know. And please hit that like button and subscribe to become part of the Family Fractures community for more inspiring stories. My name is Nia. I'm 34 years old, and for the last 8 years, I played the part of the perfect supportive wife. I cooked the best jollof rice for his business partners, I hosted the church small groups, and I kept the house spotless. Before that, I was inspecting skyscrapers and approving blueprints for the city. I was sharp. I was respected. But when our son, Malik, was born and diagnosed with autism, Marcus told me to quit. "I'm the provider," he said, puffing out his chest. "You need to focus on the boy. I make enough money for all of us." He made me feel like I was doing the noble thing, so I hung up my hard hat and became a housewife. I supported his real estate business from the shadows, giving him advice he took credit for. That Thursday evening started normal. I was in the kitchen seasoning chicken. Malik was in the living room lining up his toy cars in a perfect row. Marcus came home early, which was weird because he's usually working late until midnight. He didn't kiss me. He didn't say hello to his son. He walked into the kitchen, leaned against the counter, and checked his watch. "Nia, I'm filing for divorce." He said it so casually, like he was ordering a pizza. I froze, the spice jar shaking in my hand. "What?" "I'm filing," he repeated, sounding annoyed that he had to say it twice. "I've outgrown this arrangement. My business is exploding, Nia. I'm moving in new circles now, high-value circles. And honestly, you don't fit the image anymore." I felt like the floor had vanished. "You don't fit the image, Marcus? I built this life with you, Marcus." "You built nothing," he snapped. "I paid for it, and I want it all back. The house, the rental properties, the savings. My lawyer, Mr. Sterling, says you won't get a dime because you haven't worked in a decade. You're a liability." Then he looked into the living room at Malik, our beautiful 6-year-old boy who was humming to himself. Marcus sneered, a look of pure disgust. "And take the boy with you," Marcus said, his voice cold as ice. "I don't need a burden slowing me down. I need a fresh start, a healthy start, not a broken son." Broken. He called our child broken. My heart shattered into a million pieces, but before I could even scream, the doorbell rang. Aggressively, someone was leaning on it. My stomach dropped. I knew that ring. If I thought Marcus was being cruel, I wasn't ready for the person standing on the other side of that door, because when it rains, it pours, and the storm had just walked onto my front porch. Of course, it was Mama Glow. Gloria Williams, Marcus's mother, didn't knock, she invaded. She had a spare key that I had begged Marcus to take back for years, and tonight she used it like a battering ram. She swept into the hallway wearing a church hat big enough to block out the sun and a scowl that could curdle milk. She walked right past me, didn't even look in my direction, and went straight to her son. "Finally," she said, hugging Marcus like he was a war hero returning home. "I told you, baby. I told you 10 years ago she was just dragging you down." Mama Glow had boundary issues that would make a therapist quit their job. She marched into my kitchen, and started opening cabinets. She pulled out her phone and started taking pictures of the appliances. "I'm going to need these for the rental listing," she muttered loud enough for me to hear. "New tenants won't want her scratched up pots and pans." She turned to me, looking me up and down with that familiar sneer. "Naya, I hope you haven't packed the silver. That belongs to the family, real family." For 10 years, this woman had made my life miserable. She criticized my cooking, said my hair was too ethnic for Marcus's professional image, and worst of all, she blamed me for Malik's autism. She claimed I had bad blood. Now she was glowing. She looked at Marcus and said, "I'm so proud of you for cutting off the dead weight. You deserve a queen, not a charity case." Marcus didn't even defend me. He just checked his phone and said, "You have 48 hours, Naya. Friday at 5 p.m., I'm changing the locks. Grab your clothes and whatever toys the boy needs and get out." 48 hours to pack up a decade of marriage, to uproot my special needs child who panics if his routine changes by 5 minutes. That night was the longest of my life. I sat in Malik's room watching the little nightlight spin stars on the ceiling. He was sleeping, clutching his favorite wed truck, completely unaware that his father had just thrown us away like yesterday's trash. I cried until I was dry. I felt stupid. How did I miss this? The late nights, the new passwords on his phone, the way he stopped wearing his ring because it scratched the steering wheel. The next morning, I was a zombie. I started packing boxes in the master bedroom, trying to sort through clothes. I reached into the back of the closet behind Marcus's row of designer shoes to grab an old shoebox where I kept important papers, birth certificates, passports. But when I pulled the box out, something else fell out with it, a crumpled invoice from a contractor. I almost tossed it in the trash pile, but old habits die hard. Once an engineer, always an engineer. My eyes scanned the numbers automatically. It was an invoice for foundation repair on one of Marcus's rental properties in Buckhead. The bill was for $45,000. I froze. I knew that property. I had driven past it a month ago. It was a brick bungalow on a slab. You don't do $45,000 worth of foundation work on a slab unless the house is literally sinking into a sinkhole, and that house looked fine. I smoothed out the paper. The company name was Titan Construction, LLC. I had never heard of them, and I knew every reputable crew in Atlanta. I tucked that invoice into my pocket. I didn't know why yet, maybe just a gut feeling, maybe just my brain needing a puzzle to solve so I wouldn't fall apart. But as I walked past the guest room, I heard Marcus on the phone. The door was cracked open just an inch. He was laughing. "Yeah, she's leaving tomorrow. It's done. No, she has no clue. Listen, bring the champagne to the office. We need to celebrate the merger." He wasn't talking to a business partner. The voice was soft, intimate, and then he said a name. "I love you too, Vanessa." I stood there in the hallway clutching a box of Malik's winter coats, and my sadness turned into something cold and sharp. Vanessa. I knew who she was, and suddenly I remembered exactly where I had seen the name Titan Construction before. Marcus thought he was playing chess, but he forgot he was playing against a woman who used to calculate load-bearing limits for steel bridges. He thought I was weak, but he was about to find out exactly how much pressure it takes to make a structure collapse. Vanessa. The name tasted like sour milk in my mouth. And then it clicked. Vanessa King. She was the marketing director Marcus had hired 6 months ago. I remembered her because I helped him write the job description. I even reviewed her resume. She was 24, fresh out of college, with a smile that showed too many teeth and a wardrobe that cost more than my car. I had welcomed her into our office. I had brought her coffee. I had actually told Marcus, she seems eager to learn. Turns out, she was eager to learn my husband. I didn't confront him right then. I couldn't. I had to play the long game. Marcus watched me load the car like he was a prison guard. He actually stood on the porch with a clipboard, checking off items. Leave the espresso machine, Naya. That's for the house. Leave the tablet. That's company property. He stripped us bare. But the hardest part wasn't the stuff. It was the silence. My phone, which used to buzz all day with texts from our mutual friends, was dead silent. I sent a text to my best friend, Tasha, asking if we could stay in her guest room for a few nights. Her reply came 3 hours later. Hey, Naya, Marcus told us about the instability and the substance issues. I have kids here, so I don't think it's safe. Maybe try a shelter? I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Substance issues? I don't even drink wine because of Malik's sensory needs. I need to be alert 24/7. Marcus hadn't just divorced me, he had assassinated my character before I even packed a bag. He told everyone I was crazy, unfit, and dangerous. He isolated me so I would have nowhere to turn but back to him, begging for scraps. We ended up in a cheap motel on the outskirts of Atlanta. The carpet smelled like stale cigarettes and despair. Malik was having a meltdown. The change in routine, the new smells, the flickering neon light outside the window, it was too much for him. He was rocking back and forth on the bed, covering his ears, crying silently. I sat on the floor holding his hand, listening to the sirens outside. Marcus was probably popping champagne with Vanessa right now in the house I decorated, eating off plates I bought. He thought he had won. He thought I was just a housewife who would curl up and disappear. But once Malik finally fell asleep, I didn't cry. I turned on the bathroom light, sat on the cold tile floor, and pulled out that crumpled invoice. Titan Construction, $45,000 for structural reinforcement and concrete pouring at 1400 Peachtree Lane. I closed my eyes and visualized 1400 Peachtree Lane. It was a commercial strip mall Marcus bought last year. I knew the blueprints because I had looked them over for fun. It was built on solid granite bedrock. You couldn't pour more concrete there if you tried. It was structurally perfect. So why was he paying $45,000 for a repair that didn't exist? I pulled out my laptop, the old clunky one he let me keep because it was obsolete, and connected to the motel's spotty Wi-Fi. I went to the Secretary of State's website to look up the business license for Titan Construction. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I typed in the name. Titan Construction, LLC. Registered agent, Vanessa King. Address, a P.O. box in Decatur. My blood ran cold. Vanessa wasn't just the mistress, she was the bagman. Marcus was funneling money out of his legitimate business, paying fake invoices to a fake company owned by his girlfriend and calling it business expenses. He was stealing from himself to hide assets from the divorce. But that wasn't the smoking gun. That was just the smoke. As I clicked through the filing history, I noticed something else, a second name listed as a manager on the original LLC filing, hidden in the back pages of the PDF. It was a name that made me gasp out loud in that tiny motel bathroom, because this person wasn't just some random employee. This was the one person Marcus trusted with his life, and seeing his name on a fraudulent document meant this conspiracy went deeper than I could have ever imagined. Marcus wasn't just hiding money, he was building a trap, and he had no idea he had just handed me the blueprints to tear it all down.
Darius Moore. Seeing his name on that document felt like a knife to the chest. Darius wasn't just Marcus's CFO, he was his best friend since college. He was the best man at our wedding. He was Malik's godfather. He was the man who sat at my dining table every Thanksgiving eating my mac and cheese and telling me I was the glue holding everything together. If Darius was listed as a manager on this fake shell company, then this wasn't just a husband hiding a few dollars. This was a conspiracy. Marcus and Darius, the two men I trusted most in the world, had built a machine to rob our family blind. I barely slept. The next morning, the reality of our situation hit me hard. I packed up the motel room because we couldn't afford another night. I needed to pick up Malik's prescription. He takes medication to help regulate his sensory processing. Without it, the world becomes too loud, too bright, and terrifying for him. I drove to the pharmacy, counting the change in my purse. I handed the pharmacist my card, the joint debit card I had used for 10 years. She ran it. She frowned. She ran it again. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Certain," she said, looking uncomfortable. "The card is declined." My stomach dropped. "That's impossible. There should be thousands in that account." "It says, 'account closed,'" she whispered. "Do you have another form of payment? Or maybe new insurance? Because this policy shows as terminated as of midnight." Terminated. Marcus hadn't just taken the money, he had cut off his own son's health care. He knew Malik needed those meds. He knew the cost was $300 out of pocket, money he knew I didn't have. He was using our son's health as a weapon to break me, to force me to come crawling back and sign whatever unfair settlement he threw at me. I looked at Malik, who was spinning in circles by the magazine rack, happy for now, but I knew the storm that was coming if he missed a dose. I felt a heat rise up in my neck that I had never felt before. It wasn't sadness anymore. It wasn't grief. It was pure, unadulterated rage. I left the pharmacy with nothing. I used my last $10 to put gas in my old sedan. I had a choice. I could curl up and cry, or I could use the one thing Marcus couldn't take from me: my brain. I drove straight to 1400 Peachtree Lane. I needed to see this $45,000 foundation repair with my own eyes. I parked down the street and walked up to the property. It was a strip mall. I walked around the back, my eyes scanning every inch of the concrete. I've inspected hundreds of foundations. I know what fresh concrete looks like. I know the color of new mortar. I know the signs of underpinning. There was nothing. The dirt hadn't been touched in years. Weeds were growing through the cracks he claimed were fixed. I pulled out my phone and started snapping photos, close-ups of the undisturbed soil, wide shots of the dated, weathered concrete. I was building a portfolio of proof. But then, a black Range Rover pulled into the lot. I ducked behind a dumpster, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was Marcus, and he wasn't alone. A man in a hard hat met him, not a worker, but a city inspector. I recognized him immediately. It was Mr. Henderson, a man known for being flexible with the rules if the price was right. I held my breath, recording a video through a crack in the dumpster. Marcus handed Mr. Henderson a thick white envelope. Mr. Henderson laughed, tapped the envelope against his palm, and handed Marcus a signed permit approval. "Pleasure doing business, Marcus. The city officially certifies that the repairs are complete." They were falsifying government records now. This had crossed from civil fraud into criminal territory. I waited until they left before I sprinted back to my car. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely get the key in the ignition. I had the evidence, but I had nowhere to go. No lawyer would touch me without a retainer. I was homeless, broke, and up against a wealthy real estate mogul who had the city inspectors in his pocket. I sat in the driver's seat, scrolling through my contacts, looking for anyone who wouldn't hang up on me. And then I saw a name I hadn't thought about in 6 years. Sarah Jenkins. We went to engineering school together at Georgia Tech. We were the only 2 black women in our graduating class. We used to study until 3 a.m., drinking cheap coffee and dreaming about running our own firm. But Sarah didn't go into engineering. She went to law school. I hesitated. We had lost touch when I became a housewife. I felt ashamed. But I looked in the rearview mirror at Malik, who was starting to rock back and forth, the first sign of a meltdown. I hit call. It rang once, twice, 3 times. I was about to hang up when a voice answered. "Nia, is that you?" "Sarah," I choked out, trying to keep my voice steady. I need help. I think I found something dangerous." "Where are you?" she asked, her voice instantly shifting from surprised to serious. "I'm in a parking lot. Marcus took everything, but Sarah, I have pictures. The concrete never poured. The foundation is a lie." There was a pause, a long, heavy silence. Then Sarah said 5 words that changed the trajectory of the entire war. "Nia, come to my office now and bring every piece of paper you have, because if what you're saying is true, Marcus didn't just break the law, he made a mistake that's going to cost him his freedom." I put the car in drive. I finally had an ally. But as I merged onto the highway, I had no idea that Marcus had one more devastating card to play, one that would hit me before I even reached Sarah's office. I was 5 minutes away from Sarah's office. Just 5 minutes. I could practically see the building that was going to be my sanctuary. And then the world exploded in red and blue light. A siren wailed behind me, a sharp, piercing sound that cut right through the car. In the back seat, Malik screamed. It wasn't just a cry, it was a sensory overload shriek. He slammed his hands over his ears and curled into a ball, kicking the back of my seat. "It's okay, baby, it's okay," I yelled, trying to soothe him while pulling over to the shoulder. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely put the car in park. I rolled down the window as the officer approached. He had his hand on his holster. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. "License and registration," he said, his voice flat. I handed them over, trying to keep my voice steady. "Officer, is there a problem? I wasn't speeding." He looked at my license, then at a computer in his hand. "Ma'am, this vehicle has been reported stolen." My mouth fell open. "Stolen? This is my car. I've driven it for 6 years. My husband bought it for me." "The vehicle is registered to King Real Estate Holdings. Mr. Marcus King filed a report an hour ago stating that a disgruntled ex-employee took the company vehicle without authorization." Disgruntled ex-employee. That's what he was to me now. Not his wife, not the mother of his child, an employee he fired. "Officer, please," I begged, tears stinging my eyes. "He's my husband. We're going through a divorce. He's doing this to hurt me. My son is autistic. He's having a meltdown back there. Please." The officer looked in the back. Malik was rocking violently, moaning a low, guttural sound. The cop's face softened just a fraction, but the law is the law. "I can't let you drive a stolen vehicle, ma'am. I have to impound it. I'm not going to arrest you today because, well, it looks like a civil dispute, but you need to step out of the car, now." I stood on the side of the highway in the scorching Atlanta heat, holding a screaming 6-year-old and 2 garbage bags of clothes, watching a tow truck drag my life away. Marcus had stranded us. He wanted me broken. He wanted me to call him begging. But I didn't call him. I called an Uber, and I didn't go to a shelter. I went straight to Sarah Jenkins. When I walked into her office, I looked like a wreck. My hair was frizzy from the humidity, my eyes were swollen, and Malik was clinging to my leg like a barnacle. Sarah didn't flinch. She stood up from her glass desk. She looked powerful, wearing a sharp emerald green suit, and walked right over to me. She didn't ask questions. She just hugged me, a real, tight, sisterhood hug. "Sit down," she commanded. She called her assistant to get Malik some coloring books and headphones, and miraculously, he calmed down. Then she turned to me. "Talk." I spilled everything. The divorce, Mama Glow, the insurance cancellation, the fake invoice, and the video I took of the bribe. I laid the crumpled invoice and my phone on her desk. Sarah picked up the phone and watched the video of Marcus handing the envelope to the inspector. She watched it once, then she watched it again. A slow, terrifying smile spread across her face. "Naya," she said softly, "do you know what this is?" "Fraud?" I guessed. "This is RICO," she said, her eyes gleaming. "This is racketeering. This is wire fraud. This is bribery of a public official. Marcus isn't just playing dirty in divorce court. He's playing with federal prison time." She looked at the invoice again. "But we have a problem. This video is good, but a judge might toss it if they claim you recorded it illegally. We need more. We need to prove the money trail definitively. We need to prove intent." I looked at the invoice. My engineer brain started whirring. "The concrete," I whispered. "What?" "The concrete," I said, louder this time. "Marcus claims he paid for Class A structural concrete. That's a specific chemical mixture. It has a unique density. If I can get a core sample from that site, I can prove in a lab that no new concrete was ever poured. I can prove the foundation dates back to 1990. Sarah nodded, impressed. "Okay, but you can't go back there. He has security now. If you step foot on that property, he'll have you arrested for trespassing." I slumped in my chair. She was right. I was locked out. But then Sarah's intercom buzzed. "Ms. Jenkins, there's a woman on line 1. She says she needs to speak to Naya. She says it's an emergency." I looked at Sarah, confused. Nobody knew I was here. "Who is it?" "She says her name is Keisha. She says she's the payroll manager at King Real Estate. And she says that Marcus just fired her because she refused to sign a fake check." I grabbed the phone. Keisha was the quiet woman who sat at the front desk, the one Marcus always ignored. "Naya," Keisha's voice was shaking, "you need to listen to me. I know you're at Sarah's. Darius told me to call you." "Darius?" I froze. "Darius is the one helping him." "No, Darius isn't helping him. Marcus has something on him, Naya, something bad. But Darius just sent me a file before Marcus locked him out of the server. It's the master ledger, the real one." My heart stopped. The ledger. "I can get it to you," Keisha said, "but you have to meet me tonight, alone, behind the old warehouse on 10th Street. It sounded like a trap, it felt like a trap, but if that ledger existed, it was the key to everything. I looked at Sarah. She gave me a look that said, "Be careful." "I'll be there," I said. I hung up. I thought things were turning in my favor, but I had no idea that while I was planning to meet Keisha, Marcus had already realized the leak, and he wasn't sending the police this time. He was sending someone much, much worse. The warehouse district on 10th Street looked like the set of a horror movie. Streetlights flickered, steam rose from manhole covers, and the silence was heavy. I told Sarah to keep Malik at her office, telling her I was just running an errand. If she knew I was walking into a potential ambush, she would have locked me in a conference room. I saw Keisha's car parked behind a rusted shipping container. She was sitting inside with the engine running, her eyes darting around like a trapped animal. When I tapped on the window, she jumped so hard she dropped her phone. "Mia!" She unlocked the door, her voice trembling. "Get in, quick!" I slid into the passenger seat. The air conditioner was blasting, but Keisha was sweating. "Do you have it?" I asked, cutting straight to the chase. She reached into her bra and pulled out a small silver USB drive. "This is it, the shadow ledger. It shows every transaction Marcus tried to delete, the offshore accounts in the Caymans, the fake vendor payments to Vanessa, everything." I reached for it, but she pulled her hand back. "Nia, you need to understand something before you take this. It's about Darius." "Darius is a traitor," I spat out. "He helped Marcus build this mess." "No," Keisha shook her head vigorously. "Darius is a hostage. 3 years ago, Marcus covered up a gambling debt Darius owed to some dangerous people. Marcus kept the receipts. He told Darius that if he ever tried to leave the company, he'd send the evidence to the police and to the people Darius owes money to. Darius isn't helping him because he wants to. He's helping him because Marcus owns him." My heart softened, just a little. Darius wasn't the villain. He was a victim too. "Give me the drive, Keisha. I can save Darius too." She handed it over. I clutched the cold metal in my palm like it was a diamond. We had him. But then, floodlights blinded us. A massive black SUV blocked the exit of the alley. The high beams were blinding. My stomach dropped. We were trapped. The door of the SUV opened. I expected police. I expected a hired thug. But the man who stepped out, wearing a hoodie and looking like he hadn't slept in a week, was Darius. He walked up to Keisha's car. He looked broken. He tapped on my window. "Darius," I whispered, rolling the window down an inch. "Don't do this." "I have to, Nia." His voice was cracked. "Marcus knows you're here. He tracked Keisha's phone. Give me the drive, please. I can't let you destroy him. If he goes down, I go down." "He's destroying his own son, Darius. He cut off Malik's medicine, Darius, your godson. Is protecting your own skin worth Malik's life?" Darius flinched like I had slapped him. He looked at the SUV, then back at me. I saw the conflict warring behind his eyes. He reached into his pocket. I thought he was pulling a weapon. Instead, he pulled out his phone. He typed something quickly and held it up to the glass. The screen read, "Go. I'll stall him. Check the folder marked Project Venom." Darius suddenly slammed his hand on the hood of the car, acting angry for whoever was watching from the SUV or listening on a wire. "I said, give it to me," he screamed, winking at me. Back up now." He stepped aside, waving me through aggressively while pretending to reach for a weapon that wasn't there. "Go, Keisha, drive!" I shouted. Keisha slammed on the gas. We screeched past Darius, narrowly missing the black SUV. As we sped away, I looked in the side mirror. Darius was standing in the alley, hands raised, blocking the SUV from chasing us. He was buying us time. We drove in silence until we hit the highway. My hands were shaking, but I had the drive. When I finally got back to Sarah's office, it was past midnight. Malik was asleep on a couch made of legal pads. Sarah was pacing the floor. "We got it," I said, holding up the USB. We plugged it into Sarah's secure laptop. The files loaded, hundreds of them. But I remembered Darius's message. "Check the folder marked Project Venom." I clicked it. It wasn't financial records. It was a series of emails and architectural blueprints. I opened the first blueprint. It was for a new luxury high-rise condo project Marcus was breaking ground on next week, the Jewel of Atlanta. He'd been bragging about it on the news for months. But as I looked at the structural drawings, the ones Marcus personally approved, my blood ran cold. I'm an engineer. I know what a safe building looks like. "Oh my God," I whispered, covering my mouth. "What?" Sarah asked, leaning in. "Is it money laundering?" "It's worse," I said, pointing at the load-bearing calculations on the screen. Marcus cut costs on the steel beams. He swapped out American steel for cheap, unrated imports to save $2 million. Sarah, if they build this tower, it won't just be fraud. I looked at her dead serious. If they build this, that building is going to collapse and people are going to die. I thought I had reached the bottom of the rabbit hole, but I was wrong, because the next file in the folder wasn't a blueprint. It was a recording, a voice recording dated 3 days ago. And when I pressed play, I heard a voice that made my knees buckle, a voice I never expected to hear involved in this conspiracy. I stared at the speaker icon, my hand frozen on the mouse, realizing that the betrayal was coming from inside my own house. I pressed play. The audio was grainy at first, just the sound of shuffling papers and a chair squeaking. Then a voice cut through the static. It wasn't Marcus. It was a woman's voice, low, commanding, and terrifyingly familiar. "Stop whining, Marcus. You do what needs to be done." It was Mama Glow. I stared at the laptop, my mouth dry. I knew she was mean, I knew she hated me, but I didn't think she was involved in the business decisions. I thought she just spent his money. Marcus's voice came next, sounding panicked. "But Mama, the engineer said that imported steel is brittle. If we swap it out, the load-bearing capacity drops by 40%. If there's a strong wind or, God forbid, a tremor, the whole North Tower could shear off." "And how much do we save?" Mama Glow asked, her voice cold as ice. $2.5 million, Marcus whispered. "Then do it," she snapped. "We need that cash to cover the losses from the failed crypto investments. If you don't pay the creditors by next month, you won't have a business left to worry about." "But people could die," Marcus said. There was a pause. For a second, I thought he might actually have a conscience. Then Mama Glow laughed, a dry, humorless cackle. "People die every day, baby. By the time that building has issues, we'll be retired in the Caymans. Besides, we need a fall guy." My blood froze. "What do you mean?" Marcus asked. "Nia," Mama Glow said. The way she said my name made me feel physically sick. "She's a licensed engineer, isn't she? Her stamp is still in the safe at the house. Forge her signature on the change orders. If the building falls, it's not the developer's fault. It's the incompetent engineer's fault. Let her take the heat. She's already unstable, right? That's the story we're telling." The recording ended with the sound of a heavy stamp hitting paper. Thud. Silence filled Sarah's office. I couldn't breathe. They weren't just stealing from me. They weren't just neglecting the safety of hundreds of future residents. They were planning to frame me for a mass casualty event. They were going to let me go to prison for manslaughter while they sipped margaritas on a beach. Sarah slammed her laptop shut, her face pale. "Okay," she said, her voice shaking with rage. "This isn't a divorce case anymore, Nia. This is a criminal conspiracy to commit fraud and endanger public safety, and they are planning to pin it on you." "They have my stamp," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "Sarah, if they stamped those blueprints, I'm liable. I could go to jail for the rest of my life. Malik would go into the foster system." Sarah stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. "We have the evidence, but the police move slow. economic crime units take months to investigate, and Marcus is breaking ground on that tower in 48 hours. Once they pour that concrete, the evidence is buried. She turned back to me. We need to stop that groundbreaking ceremony. We need to blow this up publicly before they can pour a single drop of cement. How? I asked. He has security, he has the mayor coming, he has the press. Sarah smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was a shark smile. Exactly. He has the press, and you have the truth. I'm going to crash the ceremony, I realized, standing up. The fear was gone. It was replaced by a cold, hard determination. I'm going to walk right up to that podium and tell the world who Marcus King really is. It's dangerous, Sarah warned. If you go there, he'll try to have you arrested. Mama Glow will be there. It's going to be a war zone. Let them try, I said, grabbing my purse. He took my house, he took my money, he tried to take my son. Now he wants to take my freedom? No, I'm an engineer. I build things up. But on Tuesday morning, I'm going to tear his whole world down. I spent the next 24 hours preparing. I wasn't going to show up looking like a victim. I went to the thrift store and found a power suit, royal blue, sharp, professional. I printed copies of the blueprints. I made copies of the audio files. But there was one loose end, one person who knew where the bodies were buried and hadn't fully turned yet. I needed someone on the inside to lower the shields so I could deliver the final blow. I sent a text to a number I hadn't used in years. It was risky. If Marcus saw it, the plan was dead. The text read, "I know about the gambling debt, but I can save you. Help me or we both drown." I waited. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then my phone buzzed. A single emoji, unlocked padlock. I was ready. The morning of the groundbreaking ceremony was hot and humid. I watched the live stream from my phone in the car. There was Marcus, standing on a stage in front of a dirt lot, wearing a hard hat and holding a gold shovel. He looked like a king. The mayor was shaking his hand. Mama Glow was in the front row, wearing a massive hat, looking like the Queen Mother. I looked at Malik in the back seat. He was playing with his tablet, safe with Sarah's assistant, who had agreed to watch him in the car. "Mommy has to go work for a minute, baby. I'll be right back." "Okay, Mommy," he said, not looking up. I stepped out of the car. I adjusted my blazer. I clutched the folder of evidence to my chest like a shield. I walked toward the crowd. Security guards were lining the perimeter, big guys with earpieces. They had a list, and I definitely wasn't on it. I walked straight toward the main gate. A guard stepped in front of me, his hand raised. "Ma'am, this is a private event, invitation only." I looked him dead in the eye. "I'm Mrs. King," I said, my voice steady as steel, "and I have a surprise for my husband." He hesitated, and in that moment of hesitation, I saw a familiar face near the sound booth give a subtle nod. The gate clicked open. I was in. I started walking toward the stage. Marcus was leaning into the microphone, smiling that $1,000,000 smile. "This building represents the future of Atlanta, a legacy of strength, of integrity." He had no idea that in about 30 seconds, his legacy was going to turn into a crime scene. But as I climbed the stairs to the stage, someone grabbed my arm hard. I turned around and found myself staring into the furious eyes of the one person I had forgotten to account for, and she wasn't letting go without a fight.
It was Vanessa. Of course it was. She was wearing a white dress that looked suspiciously like a wedding gown, standing at the bottom of the stairs with a headset on, acting like she was running the show. She dug her fake nails into my arm, her face twisted in a snarl that didn't match her perfect makeup. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed, keeping her voice low so the reporters wouldn't hear. "You aren't on the list, Naya. You're trespassing. I should have security throw you into the street." I looked down at her hand on my arm. Then I looked her right in the eye. "You can try, Vanessa, but I don't think you want to draw attention to yourself right now, not when the FBI is currently looking into the bank accounts of Titan Construction." Her grip loosened instantly. Her face went pale beneath the bronzer. What do you mean?" "I know about the fake invoices," I whispered, leaning in close. "I know you're the bag man, so you have two choices: get out of my way and maybe cut a deal later, or stand here and go down as an accomplice to domestic terrorism." "Terrorism?" she squeaked. "When this building collapses because of the cheap steel you helped buy? Yeah, that's terror." She let go of me like I was on fire. She stepped back, trembling, and looked toward the parking lot. I didn't wait to see if she ran. I climbed the stairs. The sound of my heels clicking on the metal stage was the only sound in the world. Marcus was mid-sentence, talking about trust and community, when he saw me. He froze. His mouth stayed open, but no words came out. He looked like a deer in headlights. The silence stretched out, heavy and awkward. The crowd shifted. The cameras turned toward me. I walked right up to the podium. Marcus was too stunned to move. I reached over and adjusted the microphone. "I'm sorry to interrupt," I said, my voice booming across the construction site. I didn't sound shaky. I sounded strong. "My husband forgot to mention one small detail about the Jewel of Atlanta." "Naya, get down," Marcus hissed, finally snapping out of it. He tried to grab the mic, but I pulled away. He looked at the crowd, forcing a laugh. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. My ex-wife is having a mental health crisis. She's been very unwell." "I'm not unwell, Marcus," I said clearly. "I'm an engineer." I held up the folder. "I have the blueprints Marcus King approved 3 days ago. He swapped the American steel beams for unrated, brittle imports to save $2 million. He knows that if the wind hits this tower the wrong way, it will snap in half." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The mayor took a step back from Marcus. "Lies!" Marcus shouted, his face turning purple. "Security! Get her off the stage! She's crazy!" "And he planned to forge my signature on the safety inspection so that when people died, I would be the one to go to prison." 2 massive security guards were rushing up the stairs now. Marcus looked triumphant. He thought he had silenced me. He thought he could just drag me away and spin the story later. "Turn off her mic!" Marcus screamed at the sound booth. I looked toward the side of the stage. Darius was standing there next to the soundboard. He looked at Marcus, then he looked at me. "Marcus!" Darius yelled. "Cut the feed!" Darius didn't cut the feed. Instead, he plugged in an aux cord. Suddenly, Mama Glow's voice blasted through the massive concert speakers, loud enough to be heard 3 blocks away. "People die every day, baby. We need a fall guy. Forge her signature." The crowd went dead silent. The security guards stopped halfway up the stairs. Mama Glow, sitting in the front row, stood up and dropped her purse. Her face was a mask of pure horror. Marcus looked around wildly. The audio continued. Thud, thud. The sound of the stamp hitting the paper echoed like gunshots. "Turn it off!" Marcus screamed, lunging for the soundboard. But it was too late. The truth was out. The reporters were frantically typing. The mayor was whispering furiously to his aides. I stood there, feeling the wind on my face. I had done it. I had exposed him. But Marcus wasn't done. He turned back to me, his eyes filled with a kind of hatred I had never seen before. He reached into his jacket pocket. For a second, I thought he had a gun. "You ruined
Everything, he roared, charging at me. I braced myself for the impact, but before he could reach me, sirens wailed. Not one or two, a dozen. Screeching tires filled the air as unmarked black SUVs swarmed the dirt lot, kicking up clouds of dust. Agents in windbreakers with FBI printed on the back poured out, guns drawn. FBI! Nobody move! I thought it was over. I thought the cavalry had arrived. But as the agents rushed the stage, one of them didn't run toward Marcus. He ran straight toward me. And as he slapped handcuffs on my wrists, I realized that Marcus had played one final devastating trick that I never saw coming, a trick that might send me to prison despite everything I had just proven. The cold steel bit into my wrists. I stood there on the stage, the wind whipping my hair across my face, staring in disbelief at the FBI agent who was tightening the cuffs. Marcus burst out laughing. It was a manic, terrifying sound. He pointed a shaking finger at me. I told you she was unstable. Officer, she hacked my servers. She forged those documents. She's trying to sabotage a legitimate business because she's bitter about the divorce. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. No, I screamed. Check the timestamps. Check the signatures. He's the one putting people in danger. The agent who cuffed me, a young guy who looked nervous, started reading me my rights. Naya King, you are under arrest for corporate espionage, cyber stalking, and theft of trade secrets. Marcus had filed the report days ago. He had anticipated I might find something, so he struck first. He framed me as a disgruntled ex-wife stealing company data. He had played me perfectly. Mama Glow stood up in the front row, adjusting her hat, looking relieved. "Take her away," she shouted, waving her hand like she was shooing a fly. "Get that criminal out of my son's spotlight." I looked at Sarah in the crowd. She was screaming at another agent, waving her legal briefcase, but they were holding her back. I looked at Darius on the side of the stage. He looked horrified. Marcus walked up to me, leaning in close so only I could hear. "You thought you were smart, Naya. I'm always 3 moves ahead. Enjoy prison. I'll make sure Malik forgets you ever existed." That name, Malik. The thought of my son growing up thinking his mother was a criminal, it broke something inside me. I slumped, the fight draining out of my legs. But then a deep voice cut through the chaos. "Agent Stevens, unhand that woman immediately." A tall, older man in a suit walked onto the stage. He moved with a kind of authority that made everyone freeze. He flashed a badge. "I'm Special Agent Miller, Economic Crimes Division." He looked at Marcus. He looked at the young agent holding me. "We aren't here for Mrs. King's corporate espionage, Agent Stevens. We're here because of the tip we received 3 hours ago from a credible informant." Marcus's smirk faltered. "Informant? What informant? She's lying." Agent Miller turned toward the sound booth. "Mr. Moore, if you would." Darius stepped out from the shadows. He walked slowly toward the center of the stage. He wouldn't look at Marcus. He looked straight at Agent Miller. "I sent the files, sir," Darius said, his voice shaking but loud. "The offshore accounts, the bribes to the city inspectors, and the original structural reports proving the steel is defective." Marcus looked at Darius like he was seeing a ghost. "Darius, you rat! I own you! I have the photos!" Darius finally looked at Marcus. "You don't own me anymore, Marcus. I turned myself in this morning. I told them about the gambling. I told them about everything. I'd rather go to jail for being a gambler than go to hell for letting this building kill people." The color drained from Marcus's face. It was like watching a candle get blown out. Agent Miller nodded to his team. "Take him." The young agent uncuffed me. "My apologies, ma'am," he mumbled, his ears turning pink. I rubbed my wrists, watching as 3 agents surrounded Marcus. They slammed him against the podium, the same podium where he had just been bragging about his integrity. "This is a mistake," Marcus screamed as the cuffs clicked. "Do you know who I am? Mama, Mama, call the governor." All eyes turned to Mama Glow. She was already walking toward the exit, her purse clutched tight, walking fast. She didn't look back. She didn't stop. "Mama!" Marcus shrieked, his voice cracking. Mama stopped. She turned around slowly. She looked at her son being dragged away by the feds. Then she looked at the cameras. "I have no idea what he's talking about," she said loudly, her voice fake and high-pitched. "I warned him about his business practices. I am just a shocked mother." She was throwing him under the bus to save herself. "Get her too," Agent Miller said calmly. "She's listed as the CFO of the shell company in the Caymans." 2 female agents blocked Mama Glow's path. The look on her face when they grabbed her expensive designer blazer was worth every tear I had cried in the last 6 weeks. Her hat fell off and rolled into the dirt. As they dragged Marcus and Mama Glow away, the crowd was silent. Then, slowly, a few people started to clap, then more. I stood alone on the stage. My legs felt like jelly. Sarah ran up the stairs and hugged me so hard I almost fell over. "You did it, Naya! You actually did it!" I looked over Sarah's shoulder. Vanessa was trying to sneak away near the porta-potties, but an officer was already intercepting her. It was over. The villains were in chains. The truth was out. But as the adrenaline faded, reality set in. I was technically homeless. I had $10 to my name. My car was impounded. My husband was going to prison, which meant no child support for a long time. I walked down the stairs, exhausted. Agent Miller was waiting for me. "Mrs. King, or Ms. Williams, is it?" he said, handing me a bottle of water. "Just Naya," I said softly. "Is it over?" "The criminal part, yes," Miller said, "but we found something else. When we raided Marcus's private office downtown an hour ago, we found a safe behind a painting. We cracked it." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a thick red envelope. It looked old. The paper was yellowed. "This isn't evidence for us," Miller said, looking at me with a strange expression, something between pity and amazement. "But I think this belongs to you. It was hidden in the very back, under a stack of cash." I took the envelope. My name was written on the front in handwriting I didn't recognize. "For Naya, to be opened only in the event of my death." "Who wrote this?" I whispered. "Open it," Miller said. I tore open the seal. Inside was a single document, and as I read the first line, the ground beneath my feet shifted more violently than any earthquake. I thought the war with Marcus was about money. I thought it was about greed. But what I held in my hands proved that for the last 10 years, my entire life, my marriage, my home, even my history, had been built on a lie so massive I couldn't even comprehend it. Marcus hadn't just stolen my future, he had stolen my past. And now I was going to get it back. My hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled. I stared at the document, reading the same paragraph over and over, trying to make the words make sense. It was a deed of trust, dated 10 years ago. It wasn't a love letter. It wasn't a prenup. It was a transfer of ownership for a 10-acre plot of land in downtown Atlanta, the exact land where Marcus was building his Jewel of Atlanta tower. But the name on the original deed wasn't Marcus King. It was Nia Williams. "I don't understand," I stammered, looking up at Agent Miller. "My father died broke. He was a janitor. He didn't have land." "Your father didn't," Agent Miller said gently, "but your grandfather did. Apparently, he bought a worthless patch of dirt in the 70s. When he passed away a decade ago, the city rezoned it for commercial use. The value skyrocketed overnight to $5 million. He tapped the red envelope. "We found correspondence in the safe. The probate lawyer sent this deed to you 10 years ago. Marcus intercepted the mail. He forged your signature transferring the land to King Holdings 3 weeks before he proposed to you." The world stopped spinning. He didn't marry me for love. He didn't marry me because I was smart or beautiful. He married me because if I was his wife, I wouldn't question why he was suddenly flush with cash. He used my inheritance to start his business. He built his entire empire on a foundation he stole from me before we even said I do. Every time he told me I was worthless, he was spending my money. Every time he told me I contributed nothing, he was standing on my dirt. I looked at Marcus, who was being shoved into the back of a squad car. He saw the red envelope in my hand. For the first time, he didn't look angry. He looked defeated. He knew the one secret that could truly destroy him was finally out. "Agent Miller," I asked, my voice steady, "if the transfer was forged, who owns the land now?" Miller smiled. "Legally, you do. And since the building frame is already up and the assets of King Real Estate were purchased with funds generated from that stolen land, well, I'm not a lawyer, but I'd say you own that too." I didn't scream, I didn't cheer. I just looked at the sky and took the deepest breath of my life. 6 months later, the courtroom was quiet. Judge Patterson adjusted his glasses and looked down at the defense table. Marcus looked terrible. The designer suits were gone, replaced with a wrinkled orange jumpsuit that washed out his complexion. He had lost weight. Mama Glow sat beside him in a matching jumpsuit, looking like she had aged 20 years. She kept trying to catch my eye, probably to give me one last dirty look, but I didn't look at her. I was too busy looking at my notepad. "Mr. King," the judge said, his voice booming, "for the charges of racketeering, wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to endanger public safety, I sentence you to 25 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole." The gavel banged. Clack. Marcus slumped forward, putting his head on the table. He sobbed. It wasn't a tragic sound. It was the sound of a bully who finally met someone he couldn't push around. "Gloria Williams," the judge continued, "for your role as CFO and conspirator, you are sentenced to 12 years. Mama Glow started screaming. She yelled it wasn't fair, that she was an old woman, that her back hurt. The bailiffs dragged her out while she cursed my name. I just watched them go. They were ghosts to me now. Darius got off miter because he turned himself in and provided the evidence that saved lives. He got 3 years of probation and community service. He works at a youth center now, teaching kids about financial literacy. We grabbed coffee last week. He apologized again, but I told him we were good, but he's still not allowed to babysit. Trust takes time. As for me, I'm sitting in a corner office on the top floor of a building in downtown Atlanta, but the sign out front doesn't say King Real Estate. It says Williams and Associates, Structural Engineering and Development. I took the assets the court awarded me, my assets, and I cleaned house. I fired Vanessa, who is currently awaiting trial for fraud, and hired Keisha back as my CFO with a massive raise. We finished the tower, but we did it right. We tore out the bad steel. We poured the right concrete. And Malik, well, he's sitting on the rug in my office right now playing with a set of architectural blocks. He has the best doctors in the state. His new therapy has worked wonders. He speaks in full sentences now. Just yesterday, he looked at me and said, "Mommy, you build big houses." I walked over and kissed the top of his head. "Yeah, baby, we build big houses, but first we had to fix the foundation." I walked to the window and looked out at the city. 6 months ago, I was in a motel room with $10, thinking my life was over. I thought I was weak. I thought I was just a victim. But my grandmother used to say that carbon under pressure turns into diamonds. Marcus tried to bury me. He forgot that I was a seed. He forgot that you can't break a woman who knows how to calculate the breaking point of steel. He took everything, but in the end, he gave me back the one thing I had forgot I had, my strength. And honestly, the view from the top is beautiful. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed seeing justice served ice cold, click the video on your screen right now. It's another story about a cheater who messed with the wrong genius, and trust me, the ending is even crazier. You don't want to miss it. See you there.